Stop. Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is my first tie-dye video. It's gonna be behind the scenes of my tie-dye process, which I have the honor of learning from Mr. Courtney Pollock, the tie-dye legend, the man behind all the beautiful tie-dyes that went alongside the Grateful Dead. I started apprenticing with Courtney probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, and was honored to learn the process of how he creates the beautiful masterpieces he does. So I just wanted to give Courtney a little introduction. He also has his own YouTube channel, which is called
Sunday Sessions with Courtney Pollock,
which I will link in the description box below. So I just wanted Courtney to, that's Lola. I just wanted Courtney to briefly explain his process, how he came to do tie-dye, and then our time together.
Right then.
Yeah.
Hello. Well, Amanda's, most flattering, of course. But I did have the good fortune of being on the scene and doing the stage stuff for the Grateful Dead, as many people know. And it was a great expose for my work, especially the time, it was 1970. I'd already been doing stuff on the East Coast and done some stage work for the Incredible String Band. And I'd done environments for shows. But when I came on the Dead scene, Rosie McGee was doing some speaker fronts for the cabinets there. And I happened upon Bobby Weir's house and the crew, and they loved the work, and so Weir took me down to the studio, and I met the rest of the band, and they saw my work, and they okayed the idea of doing a stage set in tie-dye, which I did. In other words, it was a designed, complete, organized set for all of the stacks, so that and my first exposure to tie-dye actually was, I had a boutique in Greenwich Village, New York, and amazingly in 1968, there was nothing really hip in New York. I mean, there were jazz clubs and all those were really cool, but there was nothing like tie-dye. There was tie-dye around, and I first saw it on this beautiful lady coming into my store, and she basically had a sunburst on a bed sheet, hole cut in the middle, pulled it over her head, and she was just made it look like an elegant gown. And I thought, well, how would I do concentric rings? So I went, well, I'd get a sheet, I'd fold it in half, fold it in quarters, fold it into eighths, fold it like making a paper airplane, divide off that whole wedge in compartments like cells, and then you can do stuff in each of those cells. And but this all came to me in a millisecond. It was like, and then I said, well, I can apply that to all kinds of geometry, folding. So that was the ding moment when the light bulb went off, and I went, I'm going to do this. As soon as I'm settled somewhere, I can start experimenting, which I did a few months later. Actually, it's quite a while later before I actually got to do it. Meanwhile, I'd been musing about all kinds of variations, and when I actually did get to a place and got dyes and cloth, the results were better than I could have hoped, and then it became the psychedelic tie-dye art form for rock and roll, which is my privilege to be still doing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now Amanda, when I met her probably 10, 11 years ago, and then along the way, she said she was available if I needed help, because I had my assistants that I had were not necessarily regular, but they were of course friends, and they were good. And Amanda came along, and she's so organized. It was just wonderful. It was a perfect assistant. And if she had ever opened a cupboard, within minutes, that whole cupboard is all organized. So well, I couldn't stand opening a cupboard and seeing it look like that. So, along the way, even though I'm quite tidy, I'm not don't have the organizational prowess that Amanda has, which actually works really well for doing crafts and handiwork, and of course organizing things in your life and your home. And so Amanda learned the fundamentals of my tie-dye form and then has applied it in her own way for more soft soft, beachy, yes, and more femme colors, but they're beautiful. They're just a subtle, they're so softly subtle and attractive in a way that I couldn't have expected. You know, it's so casual compared to my precision, you know, which demands like, oh my God, that's so intense. But hers is like, oh, flowy and nice. So anyway.
Thank you. I'm honored to be able to use your techniques, and I just wanted to share with YouTube behind the scenes of the process of the steps I take that Courtney taught me on ensuring that your tie-dye sets and the rinsing process and just all the basic fundamentals of tie-dye without focusing too much on the actual tying and folding techniques. This is just my step-by-step process. So thank you, Courtney.
Well, thank you, Amanda. It's been a pleasure. You know, our association has been worked for both of us.
Yeah, I can't wait to see your next backdrop. Don't forget to check out Courtney's channel, and here's the video. Hope you love it. Welcome to the voiceover side. So this is going to be me explaining the step-by-step process to ensure like the best tie-dye possible. I'm not really going deep into the folding process. There's tons of YouTube videos out there of how to do it. This is how Courtney taught me, which is kind of a trade secret, sort of. But I just wanted to say, before you tie-dye, you need to purchase your garment and launder it. Very important part of ensuring that there's no starch left that's already in your fabric when you buy something new. Or if you buy it used, it's just nice to give it a freshen up. You're washing it and drying it as well. So you're pre-shrinking it and you're removing any starches. Here I'm just going through and adding the soda ash to boiling hot water. This is what I'm gonna let the tie-dyes float in, and they'll absorb the soda ash and sink. Once they've sunk, you know they've absorbed enough. So then you just kind of wanna drain them out a little, put them in a bin, and then we're gonna take them to the washing machine and spin out the rest of that soda ash. So make sure that they sink. This is gonna allow for better penetration when you're dyeing them, and ensure that you're getting full pigmentation of the color of dyes, especially if you want more saturated dye. So then you just take them to your washer, just not a rinse cycle, you just wanna spin it. You don't wanna rinse out the soda ash that's in the fabric. You just wanna spin out the remainder of it so it's not a dense ball. And it takes like 5 minutes. It's a pretty quick step, but an important one nonetheless, especially if you want really beautiful looking tie-dye. So we're back in the kitchen now. I'm just gonna go ahead and mix in all my colors. So I filled each bowl, same amount of bowls I want for the amount of colors I want. Pretty full with water. It can just be room temperature, it doesn't need to be hot or cold. And I like pastel tie-dye. I think Courtney mentioned that at the beginning, and I'm just doing 2 spoonfuls, so it's not super saturated. Add as much or as little as you like. Make sure you just stir it in, and yeah, you can mix different colors to get orange. You can mix blues together. You can mix all your colors together and get brown. Pick your color palette, and then, yeah, count out your bowls and mix your colors. Just doing my final few colors here. Trying to decide, I can feel my brain trying to figure it out. Ooh, gold. I think I'm making orange. Yeah, I'm making orange here. just another close-up shot so you can kind of see better exactly what it is I'm doing, but it's pretty simple. I was just trying to rinse off the lid, but it's older dye, so it kind of forms the skin, but that's fine. This is the fuchsia. So there's tons of places online where you can get different dyes. Just Google it. So I'm getting tinfoil ready, so after I've dyed them, also, there's my boyfriend. Hi, Tyler. So after you've dyed them, you can wrap them in foil and stack them without them bleeding through or ruining, so distracting, or ruining the other dyes, shirts, or whatever they're sitting on top of. You just want to put them in foil or some kind of plastic bag or something to separate them so they're not cross bleeding, if you will. So here is the actual tie-dye process itself. My suggestion is always to go light to dark, because if you start dark, you're gonna muddy your light colors. So I kind of do all my tips. This, I am not listening to my own advice. It was okay because it was a lighter blue, but yeah, like I said, it'll muddy. It's okay because I'm doing pastels, but it can muddy your other dyes, and you really don't want to do that, especially because dyes aren't cheap. So yeah, and then I fully submerge it at the end. You don't want to let it like run through either, or else that bleed of color will bleed into whatever bowl of color you're holding it over. And then wrapping it up in tin foil and moving on to the next one. I'll stop talking for a minute so you can enjoy the tie-dye process. And my cool music in the background. I'm not sure if it's Rufus Du Sol, like live set, but enjoy. I did want to mention that I named this line Salty Granola because it just feels really beachy and fun. I love that like washed out vintage tea surfer vibe, and yeah, I hope you're enjoying the tie-dye process. Beach break. I actually ended up having a little beach day with my best friend and her puppy, Fernando. He's so cute. It's nice to get outside after being in the kitchen all day, especially it was such a beautiful summer's day and there was kite surfers. So yeah, then back to it. I'm back home now, so I'm filling up my sinks to start the rinsing process. This is really important if you're using more saturated dyes. It's okay for pastels. I don't have to change the sink a lot. But if you're doing heavier dyes, you're gonna need a sink of cold water to start, get it as much of the dye out as you can, and then a sink of warm water. Sometimes you'll need 2 sinks because you have so much dye coming through, especially if you've used a darker color like purple or black. But for me, I don't really see. You can see the water's pretty clear. And then I'm just rinsing it out. You don't want to do this on the counter like I'm doing if it's really saturated tie-dyed stuff. You want to have a bin of water so they're at least floating in water, and if there's any color, it's not bleeding through. But make sure you're giving it a good squeeze. Always wear gloves or else you're just gonna dye your hands multiple colors. And like I said, cold to warm, cold to warm. If the water's starting to look muddy, change your sink, pause for a second, focus on untying them. And then you're just gonna do a basic wash cycle. So you can start filling your washer before you start bringing the t-shirts in, but it doesn't matter if it's pastel, but yeah, basic cycle. And then here's me kind of planning out what I wanted to say for my reel for Instagram, because there's a lot of steps to tie-dye. Like, first, just purchasing and finding a good quality, there's Lola, a good quality garment is hard. I find it's harder and harder to find. You don't want polyester or any kind of synthetic fabrics. They will not dye. And then, like I said at the beginning of the video, you want to wash to remove any of the starches that are, or if it's, like I said, secondhand, someone's fabric softener, you just want to get all that out. And then you want to dry it in the dryer to pre-shrink it. And then you're going to do your folding, your tying, you soak it in soda ash, you spin it out in the washer, you mix and prepare the dyes, you dye each piece, wrap it up, let it set, and then untie, rinse, and then wash. This is me just getting my labels because I like to brand them with my Blonde Amazon Design logo, or I just did some for my boyfriend who's a musician and I just put his name on them. And I just use my Cricut Smart iron-on vinyl, and then it just cuts it out for me. Super simple. Gotta love my Cricut. I hated it at first, but like I don't know what I would do without it now. And yeah, just getting my decals ready. And then I guess my wash cycle was done. So instead of drying them this time, you're gonna hang to dry. And then once they're dry, you can iron them and you'll just see such a difference in like the vibrancy of your, I don't know if that's a word, but, and how vibrant your design is, and the sharpness to it really comes out when you do that final iron. So yeah, this is just me hanging up my batch. And I did my overalls. I had these Levi overalls that were ecru, and I was like, this could be rad. I love them. Just getting my decals ready here. Pretty basic Cricut-y stuff. If you're interested, there's tons of YouTube videos on the Cricut. Just so you know, mine is the Cricut Maker 3, I believe. That's the model I have. And here I am just ironing it on. Simple. Boom. Love it. I was so happy with this batch. I really hope that you've learned something or a few things, or feel confident in doing some tie-dye at home by yourself. It's really not that scary. It's such a beautiful textile art that I feel is not really as appreciated as it should be. That's why I feel so honored to get to worked alongside the master himself, Courtney, and we've made beautiful backdrops, and understanding the way his brain sees the geometry of it. I just feel so honored to have learned this skill and been able to apply it to my own business. There's the collection. I hope you enjoyed the video and that you learned something. See you in the next one. Bye.